I'm filing for divorce." The words hung in the air of our apartment like smoke from a fire I should have started 30 years ago. Kevin stared at me, his mouth agape, eyes wide with disbelief. At 51, he still had the same expression he'd worn when I confronted him about stealing my lipstick money when we were children, stunned that anyone would dare challenge him. "Margaret, you can't be serious," he finally managed, running his hand through his graying hair. "After everything we've been through? 25 years of marriage. 25 years of lies." I corrected him, my voice steadier than I'd expected. Behind him, I could see the expensive painting we'd bought on our honeymoon, the one I'd paid for, like everything else. 25 years of watching you drain our accounts for your revolutionary business ideas. 25 years of you prioritizing your parents over me. I placed the divorce papers on the coffee table between us. The leather portfolio, a gift from Ellen when I'd made department head, felt satisfying under my fingers. This moment was decades in the making. You're just upset about mom and dad moving in," he stammered. "It's temporary, I swear. Just until my new venture gets off the ground." I laughed then, a sound so unfamiliar it startled both of us. "Your new venture. How many is that now, Kevin?" "6. 7? And how many of them succeeded?" "0. His face flushed crimson. "You've never believed in me. You're just like all those short-sighted investors." I picked up my suitcase by the door packed 3 days ago when I'd finally made my decision. "No, I believed in you too much, for too long. That's the difference." Kevin lunged forward, grabbing my wrist. "You can't leave. My parents are arriving tomorrow." "Where will they stay?" I gently removed his hand. "That's not my problem anymore." As I walked out the door, my phone began to ring. Catherine, my mother-in-law's name, flashed on the screen. I silenced it without a moment's hesitation. After 30 years of answering their every call, it felt like the most revolutionary act of my life. Flashback 3 months earlier. The first call came at 7 a.m., just as I was preparing for an important budget meeting. I was already dressed in my charcoal gray suit, the one I saved for presentations to the board, my silver streaked hair pulled back in a neat bun. The coffee machine had just finished brewing my morning cup when my phone lit up with Mom-in-Law again on the screen. I sighed, staring at it. This was the third time this week, always right before a crucial workday. At 58, I had long ago mastered the art of compartmentalizing, keeping my family obligations separate from my career as an economic director, but lately, the boundaries were crumbling. "Catherine," I answered, injecting warmth into my voice that I didn't feel. "It's rather early." "Margaret, thank God." Her voice was breathless with manufactured panic. "We've been trying to reach you since yesterday." I checked my call log. No missed calls. Another of Catherine's dramatic exaggerations. "I was in meetings until late." I lied smoothly. In truth, I'd been having dinner with Ellen, my closest friend and colleague, deliberately avoiding family drama for one peaceful evening. "It's Kevin," she continued. "The investors pulled out. His company. Everything's gone." I closed my eyes, feeling the familiar weight settle onto my shoulders. Kevin's fifth entrepreneurial venture was collapsing, just as I'd predicted when he'd first pitched the revolutionary AI fitness coaching app to me 6 months ago. "Define everything," I said, my tone professional, the same one I used when dealing with budget shortfalls at work. Richard's stern voice cut in that they were on speakerphone, of course. "The entire company's bankrupt." Kevin put everything he had into it, and you what? The chill in my voice would have made my junior staff members tremble. A pause. "We helped him, of course. He's our son." I set my coffee mug down with deliberate care. "How much?" Silence stretched between us. "How much?" I repeated, already knowing the answer. "Our retirement fund," Richard finally admitted. "All of it." I laughed then, a short, bitter sound. 15 years of warnings. 15 years of being called pessimistic, unsupportive, jealous of Kevin's vision. 15 years of watching my in-laws pour money into one failed business after another while I quietly built my career, paid our mortgage, funded our retirement accounts. "Where's Kevin now?" I asked. "At our house," Catherine sniffled. "He's devastated, Margaret." He hasn't eaten in days. I glanced at my watch. The board meeting was in 45 minutes. And what exactly do you want from me? Another pause. I could almost see them exchanging looks across their kitchen table. Well, Catherine began carefully. We've been thinking. Your condo. No. The word was out before she could finish. You haven't even heard me out. Your 3-bedroom house where you've lived for 30 years is suddenly uninhabitable. But my 2-bedroom condo where I work from home 3 days a week is now the solution? It's just temporary, Catherine pleaded. Until we figure something out. Richard and I can take the guest room, and Kevin. Absolutely not. Margaret, Richard's voice hardened into the authoritative tone he'd used during his professor days. This is your family. I clutched the phone tighter. Exactly. My family who just lost their entire retirement fund backing Kevin's 5th failed business venture. My family who never once asked my opinion despite my actual experience in corporate finance. My family who now wants to crowd into my condo because their 51-year-old son screwed up again. Kevin took a risk. Catherine's voice wavered. He tried to build something. With your money, I interrupted. Not his. We're not asking, Margaret, Richard cut in. We're telling you. Family takes care of family. I walked to my window, looking out at the Boston skyline I'd built my life in, without their help or approval. For a moment, I was transported back to my childhood home, the small, tidy house where my own parents had lived frugally, saved diligently, and taught me the value of independence. Always have your own money, Margaret. My mother had told me when I was just 12. Never depend on a man to take care of you. She learned that lesson the hard way after my father's illness had drained their savings. I'd watched her work 2 jobs to keep us afloat, her hands cracked and bleeding from cleaning other people's houses after teaching all day. Where were you? I asked quietly. When I needed a cosigner for this condo 15 years ago. Or when I was working 2 jobs through my master's program. That was different, Catherine dismissed. You've always been so independent. And now you want to punish me for it. My phone buzzed with another call at Kevin, right on cue. Put him on, I said. A click, and then Kevin's voice. Margaret, I know how this looks. Does it look like you burned through your parents' entire retirement fund on an app that nobody wanted? You don't understand the market dynamics. I understand, I cut him off. That you're all planning to move into my condo without my permission. Don't be cold, Kevin snapped. Where else are we supposed to go? I let the silence stretch, feeling something crystallize in my chest. 30 years of being the responsible one, the backup plan, the safety net first for my own parents, then for Kevin and his parents after our marriage. It ended today. I'll make arrangements, I said finally. Oh, thank God. Catherine breathed. I knew you'd come through, sweetie. We can be there by. I didn't say you could move in. I said I'd make arrangements. What's that supposed to mean? Richard demanded. I smiled, though none of them could see it. It means I'll handle it. Isn't that what you always wanted? Reliable Margaret fixing everyone's problems. Margaret, Kevin started. I'll call you back with the details. Don't come to my condo. Don't call me at 7 a.m. And Kevin? What? He sounded sullen, like the teenager he'd never quite stopped being. Start packing up your desk. The investors aren't the only ones who know about the cookbooks. I hung up before they could respond, my hands steady as I poured my coffee. For the first time in 30 years, I felt completely in control. They had no idea what was coming. At the office, you should have seen Kevin's high school graduation. Catherine always told guests at dinner parties, her eyes misting over. He gave the most beautiful valedictorian speech. The memory hit me like a slap as I stirred my coffee in the break room. Ellen, head of HR and my closest friend for over 20 years, noticed my expression darken. Family stuff again? She asked, leaning against the counter. Just remembering things, I said, dropping into a chair. Did I ever tell you about my promotion to senior accountant? The one where the CEO personally congratulated me? No, exactly. I pulled up my browser, starting to research tenant laws. Because Richard and Catherine didn't come. They were at Kevin's baseball tournament. He struck out 3 times and quit the team the next day. Ellen rolled her chair closer to my desk. Okay, spill. What happened with the 7 a.m. calls? I filled her in on everything. The bankruptcy, the attempted invasion of my condo, Kevin's latest failure. With each detail, her eyes widened. They just expected to move in? All of them? Classic Kevin crisis protocol. He screws up, they swoop in, and somehow I'm the bad guy for not playing along. My fingers flew across the keyboard as I typed. But not this time. What are you looking up? Everything. Tenant laws, power of attorney, financial fraud reporting procedures. Ellen leaned in, lowering her voice. Are you thinking what I think you're thinking? Depends. Are you thinking I should finally stop being the family doormat? Girl, I've been thinking that for 20 years. She glanced at my screen. But this looks serious. My phone buzzed, a text from Catherine. Richard and I will be there Saturday with our things. Kevin needs a few more days to pack. Please clear some space in your closet for our clothes. I showed Ellen the message. Her jaw dropped. They're not even asking anymore. They never did. I started typing a response, then deleted it. You know what the worst part is? When I finished my MBA summa cum laude at 40, they skipped the ceremony because Kevin had a networking event. No way. He met some investor who promised to fund his second startup, the organic meal delivery service. The one that lasted 4 months. That's the one that cost them their vacation home? I pulled up an old photo on my phone. Me in my graduation cap and gown, standing alone on campus. I had to take an Uber to my own graduation because they insisted Kevin needed their car for his important meeting. Ellen grabbed my arm. Margaret, listen to me. You're not their backup plan. You're not their retirement fund, and you're definitely not their free hotel. I know. I showed her my screen. That's why I'm doing this. She read the web page I'd pulled up, her eyes widening. Holy, are you sure? Remember last Christmas when Kevin announced his app was practically guaranteed to succeed, and Richard and Catherine kept talking about how they'd never have to worry about money again? Yeah. I tried to warn them, showed them the market research, the competitor analysis. Richard said I was just jealous of Kevin's visionary mind. I laughed bitterly. Visionary? He couldn't even code. Hired some overseas developers who took one look at his specs and doubled their rate. My phone buzzed again, this time from Richard. We raise you better than this selfishness. Saturday, 9 a.m. Be ready. Ellen read the message over my shoulder. They really think they can just force their way in? They've been forcing their way into my life for 25 years. I started gathering my things. I need to make some calls. Cover for me with the budget committee. Where are you going? To see an old acquaintance of Kevin's. Someone who might be very interested in what happened to those investor funds. Margaret, Ellen looked concerned. Whatever you're planning. They want me to make arrangements. I stood up, slinging my bag over my shoulder. I'll make arrangements, just not the kind they're expecting. As I headed for the door, I paused. Hey, Ellen. Remember that restraining order paperwork you helped your sister with last year? She nodded slowly, understanding dawning on her face. Think you still have a copy? I'll email it to you right now. She smiled, a mixture of concern and admiration in her eyes. Just be careful. Revenge might feel good in the moment, but this isn't about revenge, I corrected her. It's about consequences. It's about 30 years of enabling behavior finally coming to an end. As I walked to my car, my phone lit up with another message, this time from Kevin. Mom's upset because of you. Hope you're happy. I typed back 3 words before turning off my phone. Just getting started. Meeting with Martin. The cafe was quiet for a Thursday afternoon. Just a few patrons scattered among the wooden tables. I'd chosen it carefully, not too upscale to be intimidating, not too casual to seem unprofessional. Martin was already there when I arrived, his silver hair and tailored suit marking him as someone who understood the value of presentation. Margaret, he stood, extending his hand. It's been 15 years? 17, I corrected, shaking his hand firmly. Not since Kevin's second startup imploded. He gestured for me to sit. I have to admit, I was surprised to get your call. After what happened, I settled into the chair across from him. You mean after my husband forged your signature on those transfer documents and stole your investment? Martin's laugh was short and humorless. Always direct. I've always appreciated that about you. He studied me over his glasses. You look well. Success suits you. I've worked hard for it, I replied, unwrapping my scarf. Boston's autumn chill had settled in early this year. Unlike some people we both know. Speaking of, Martin leaned forward. You mentioned on the phone that Kevin has. How did you put it? Overextended himself again? I pulled out my tablet. His latest company just went bankrupt. A fitness app. Let me guess he had no actual AI expertise? Hired a team in Estonia who took his money and delivered half the promised features. Martin shook his head. Some people never learn. No, I agreed. But some people enable them their entire lives. I met his eyes. I'm not doing it anymore. Something in my tone must have signaled the depth of my resolve. Martin set down his coffee cup, his expression turning serious. What exactly are you planning, Margaret? I have everything documented. I pulled up the files I'd spent the last week compiling. The investor meetings, the cookbooks, the offshore accounts he set up. Martin held up his hand. Before we get into that, tell me why you're really doing this. I paused, caught off guard by the directness of the question. Isn't wanting justice enough? Justice is filing a complaint with the SEC. What you're describing sounds more comprehensive. He leaned forward. What happened? What was the final straw? I was 12 when my father had his first stroke. My mother's face as she counted out coins at the grocery store, deciding between milk and bread because we couldn't afford both that week. The shame I felt wearing secondhand clothes while my classmates had new outfits. The promise I made to myself, never again. I would build security, stability, a fortress against uncertainty. Then I met Kevin at 27. Charming, ambitious, full of dreams. The son of a respected professor and teacher. A good match. My mother had said, relieved I'd found someone from a stable family. What none of us realized was how that same family had created a man who believed the world owed him success, who'd never faced real consequences for failure. I blinked, returning to the present. It's not what he did recently, I said. It's what they've all done for 30 years. Every time he failed, I had to succeed twice as hard just to keep us afloat. Meanwhile, his parents treated him like he was still that promising young man with potential, not a 51-year-old who's never completed anything he started. Tell me about Apshir, Martin said quietly. His first startup with me. The one where he falsified user numbers and then forged your signature when you threatened to report him? My tone was matter of fact, not questioning. You knew? Martin's eyebrows rose in surprise. Not then. I found out 5 years ago when I was organizing our tax documents. I met his gaze steadily. By then, we'd been married 20 years. I had nowhere to go. Martin nodded slowly. And now? Now I have a condo in my name only. A career I've built over 30 years. And no illusions left about the man I married or the family that created him. He pulled out his phone, typed something quickly. Check your email in about an hour. Every document I kept from that time. The forged signatures, the falsified reports, everything. Why would you help me? I asked. After all this time? Martin smiled, a genuine warmth replacing his professional demeanor. Let's just say I believe in consequences catching up to people eventually. He hesitated. My father was like Kevin. Charming, always chasing the next big thing, never taking responsibility. My mother enabled him until the day he left her with nothing but debts. I was 14. The parallel wasn't lost on me. What happened to her? She moved in with my grandparents, worked as a secretary until she was 73. Never complained, never stopped loving him. His expression hardened. I swore I'd never let anyone take advantage of me like that. Yet Kevin did exactly that. Once, Martin corrected. Only once. The difference between me and his parents is that I learned. I gathered my things, feeling a surprising kinship with this man I barely knew. Thank you for this. Don't thank me yet. He handed me his business card, a private number written on the back. My divorce attorney. Best in the state. Tell her I sent you. I stared at the card, the word divorce suddenly making everything real. I haven't decided that far yet. Martin's expression was gentle but firm. Yes, you have, Margaret. You decided the moment you called me. As I left the cafe, my phone lit up with notifications. 3 missed calls from Catherine, 2 from Richard, 1 from Kevin, and a new email from Martin. The subject line simply, evidence. The cold air felt cleansing as I walked to my car. For the first time in decades, I felt the weight beginning to lift. Not just the burden of Kevin's failures, but something deeper, the weight of my own complicity in allowing this to continue for so long. It was time to set us all free. Confrontation at the condo. Saturday morning, 8:57 a.m. I sat at my kitchen counter, phone propped up and recording, waiting. Right on cue, the pounding started. Margaret, open this door right now. Richard's voice boomed through the hallway, carrying the authority of his former professor days. I took a sip of coffee, watching through my security camera as Richard and Catherine stood outside, surrounded by luggage. No Kevin in sight, probably still too devastated to help his elderly parents move. Margaret, we know you're in there. Another round of thunderous knocking. Mrs. Chen from across the hall peeked out, then quickly shut her door. Other neighbors, people I'd lived alongside for 15 years, peered through their blinds. I'm calling the police if you don't stop, I said loudly enough to be heard through the door. Police? Catherine's voice cracked. You'd call the police on your own parents-in-law? I would if they were trying to break into my condo. Break in? Richard sounded outraged. We're your family. Family who was explicitly told not to come here. Stop this nonsense and open the door. More pounding. I pressed record on my phone's voice memo app. I am formally requesting that you leave my property. This is your first warning. Warning? Catherine started crying, her signature move. Listen to how she talks to us after everything we've done for her. What exactly have you done for me? I stood up, moving closer to the door. Name one thing. We welcomed you into our family. Richard shouted. You welcome my salary and my stability. There's a difference. Is that what this is about? Richard's voice dropped dangerously. Jealousy because we've always supported Kevin's ambitions? No. This is about boundaries and your complete inability to respect them. A new voice joined the chaos. Mr. Rodriguez from the building management office. Is there a problem here? Yes, Richard started. Our daughter-in-law is refusing to let us into her home during a family emergency. I have it all on video, Mr. Rodriguez, I called out. Mr. Rodriguez addressed me through the door. Would you like me to call security, Ms. Coleman? Don't you dare. Catherine wailed. I've been like a mother to her for 25 years. After everything we've done. I checked my phone, still recording. Last warning, leave, or I'm pressing charges for harassment. Charges? Richard slammed his hand against the door. I am your father-in-law. Sir, Mr. Rodriguez's voice hardened. If you don't step back, I'll have to. This is a family matter. This is a tenant safety matter, Mr. Rodriguez corrected. And I've already called security. My phone buzzed. A text from Kevin. On my way. Don't do anything stupid. I texted back. Too late. Already did something smart instead. Margaret, please. Catherine was full on sobbing now. Why are you doing this to us? Why do you hate us so much? I don't hate you. I just don't trust you anymore. Trust? Richard scoffed. We're not some strangers off the street. No, you're worse. You're people who should respect me, but only value me when you need something. Heavy footsteps approached. Building security. I heard Mr. Rodriguez explaining the situation. Ma'am, a new voice, Officer Martinez, who I'd briefed yesterday. Do you want to press charges? Catherine's crying reached new decibels. Our own daughter-in-law calling the police on us. Yes, I said clearly. And I have documentation of previous harassment. This is ridiculous. Richard shouted. We're leaving, but this isn't over, Margaret. Actually, it is. I pulled out my phone and sent the email I'd prepared. Check your inboxes. You've both been served with cease and desist orders. Come near my condo again, and I'll file for a restraining order. Silence fell. I could picture their faces. Richard's rage, Catherine's theatrical devastation. You wouldn't, Catherine whispered. Try me. More footsteps running down the hallway, this time Kevin's voice. What the hell is going on? Your wife, Richard spat, has lost her mind. No, I called out. I finally found it. Along with copies of all those creative accounting tricks you used with your investors, Kevin. Silence, heavier this time. You're bluffing, Kevin said, but his voice shook. Want to risk it? Those SEC whistleblower rewards are pretty tempting. Officer Martinez, I said, could you please escort them out and document everything? I watched through the security camera as they were led away. Richard rigid with anger, Catherine leaning dramatically on Kevin, who kept looking back at my door with something close to fear. When they were gone, I finally opened the door. Mr. Rodriguez stood there, concern etched on his face. Are you okay, Miss Coleman? Never better. I handed him an envelope. For your trouble, and thank you. Family problems are the worst kind, he said kindly. They're not family anymore, I replied. They're just people who forgot I stopped being their backup plan a long time ago. I closed the door, checked my security cameras one last time, and picked up my phone. Time to make that call to Martin and really get this divorce started. The fallout. Have you seen Kevin's Facebook post? Ellen burst into my office Monday morning, coffee sloshing dangerously in her mug. I was already looking at it on my screen. The post had gone viral overnight among our extended family and mutual acquaintances. My wife, who I've supported and loved for 25 years, has shown her true colors. When our family needed her most, she not only abandoned us but threatened legal action. She's cut off all contact with my devastated parents who only wanted to be close to their son in their retirement years. Sometimes the most toxic people wear the mask of victims. He's really playing the martyr card, I muttered, scrolling through the hundreds of sympathetic comments. Your cousin Judith shared it, Ellen said, grimacing, with some choice words about ungrateful wives. My phone buzzed. Another message from a distant relative. How could you do this to your own in-laws? They've always spoken so highly of you. Everything except respect, support, or basic human decency, I thought, but deleted the draft response. Ms. Coleman John, the CO, appeared at my door. Can we talk? I followed him to his office, already suspecting what was coming. We've received some concerning feedback, he began carefully, about your family situation becoming a potential PR issue. You mean Kevin's social media smear campaign? Several clients have expressed worry about working with someone involved in a public family dispute. Given your position as economic director, I understood immediately. Our firm managed investments for conservative, traditional clients. Family scandal could unsettle them. I understand your concerns, I said, pulling out my phone and opening my email. Would you like to see the actual documentation? Documentation? I forwarded him the file Martin had helped me compile. Kevin's history of financial fraud, including his latest venture that bankrupted his parents, the police report from Saturday when they tried to force their way into my condo, the cease and desist order, and the evidence of his creative accounting that the SEC was now investigating. John's eyes widened as he scrolled. This is the truth, I said calmly, which I'm happy to make public if anyone questions my professional reputation. He cleared his throat, suddenly looking uncomfortable. That won't be necessary. Just keep me informed if anything escalates. Back at my desk, Ellen was waiting with fresh coffee and a gleam in her eye. Remember my friend in PR? She has an idea. I'm listening. Those emails Martin sent you, the ones showing Kevin's creative accounting with investor money, what if they accidentally leaked to a few financial bloggers? I smiled. Accidentally, very accidentally, through untraceable channels. My phone lit up again. A message from Catherine. The neighbors won't even look at us anymore. Everyone knows what you've done. Good, I muttered, then turned to Ellen. Do it. Within hours, the first article appeared on a popular finance blog. Tech startup scandal. Investor funds misappropriated in family drama. Then another. AppShare founder accused of multiple instances of financial misconduct. By lunch, Kevin's name was trending in Boston's business circles, and not in the way he planned. Kevin's trying to contact you, Ellen said, showing me her screen. He'd created a fake LinkedIn profile to bypass my blocks. I was reading the latest blog post when my office phone rang. Unknown number. Margaret Coleman speaking. You bitch. Kevin's voice shook with rage. You actually did it. You leaked those emails. I put him on speaker so Ellen could hear. I have no idea what you're talking about, but it sounds like you're having a rough day. They're freezing my accounts. There are lawyers calling. Mom can't stop crying. Still? I thought she was in the hospital with dangerous blood pressure. Miraculous recovery. This isn't a joke. He shouted. You've destroyed everything. No, Kevin. You destroyed everything. I'm just making sure everyone knows it. I'm coming to your office. That would be unwise. The restraining order includes my workplace. You can't hide behind legal papers forever. Watch me. I hung up, turned to Ellen. Call security. Tell them to expect my husband. Already done. She grinned. Want to watch from the lobby camera? We didn't have to wait long. Kevin stormed in 20 minutes later, face red, wearing the same clothes from Saturday. Sir, the security guard's voice came through clearly on the feed. You're not authorized to be here. That's my wife's office. I need to, sir. We have a restraining order on file. Please leave before we call the police. We watched him deflate, shoulders slumping. Tell Margaret, he said to the camera he'd spotted. This isn't over. Actually, I whispered as he skulked away. It is. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from Martin. You're becoming quite the talk of financial circles. Dinner tonight to celebrate progress on the divorce paperwork? I looked at Ellen, who was already nodding enthusiastically. Count me in. I typed back. I have a feeling we have a lot more to celebrate soon. The next article was already writing itself in my head. Local executive exposes years of family financial fraud. Now that had a nice ring to it. As Kevin's retreating figure disappeared from the security camera, Ellen turned to me with a mixture of awe and concern on her face. Are you really okay? She asked quietly. I've known you for 20 years, and I've never seen you like this. I considered the question, letting the professional mask slip for a moment. Do you know what I realized, Ellen? All these years, I thought I was being the bigger person, the responsible one, the one who kept the peace. I gestured to the monitor where Kevin had just been. But I wasn't being responsible. I was being complicit. Ellen nodded slowly. Still, he was your husband for 25 years. That's a long time to share your life with someone. Was he, though? My voice softened as I stared out the window at Boston's skyline. We lived in the same house, but I was alone in that marriage from the beginning. The person I thought I married never existed. I remembered our wedding day, how Richard had given a toast praising Kevin's brilliant mind and limitless potential, never once mentioning me except as the supportive partner who would help his son achieve greatness. Even then, I was just a supporting character in Kevin's story. What's your next move? Ellen asked, bringing me back to the present. I checked my watch. Finishing these quarterly reports, then meeting my lawyer at 4. I smiled. One crisis at a time, in order of importance. Ellen laughed. That's the Margaret I know. Always prioritizing. The reckoning. The knock on my condo door came at exactly 7 p.m. The following evening. Not the frantic pounding from before. This was different, defeated. Through the security camera, I saw Richard and Catherine standing there, looking smaller somehow. No Kevin in sight. Margaret, Catherine's voice was hoarse. Please, just talk to us. I opened the door but kept the security chain on. You're violating the cease and desist order. To hell with your legal papers, Richard snapped, then immediately deflated. They're taking him to court. Who? Everyone. Catherine's makeup was smeared. The investors, the bank, even that Martin person you've been seeing. I wouldn't call it seeing, I said. More like collaborating. They're saying he could go to jail. Richard's voice cracked. Our son in jail. Actions have consequences. He's your husband, and I am your daughter-in-law, I replied evenly. Or did you forget that part again? Catherine pressed her face against the gap in the door. We can fix this together as a family. Family? I laughed. Now you want to be a family? I closed the door, then reopened it, this time stepping into the hallway. Let me tell you what we've been. They backed up, startled by my sudden emergence. We've been a support system for Kevin, a fan club for Kevin, a blank check for Kevin. I ticked off each point on my fingers. But we've never been a family. That's not true, Catherine protested. We love you both equally. Really? Where were you when I graduated with my MBA? Silence. When I was promoted to economic director? More silence. When I bought this condo? When I won the industry award last year? When I needed surgery for my gallbladder and had to take an Uber home from the hospital because Kevin was at a crucial meeting? We were busy, Richard interrupted. Kevin always needed something. And I always needed to understand. I pulled out my phone, showed them the screen. But look what I found in his company records. They squinted at the document. Richard went pale. That's our retirement account transfer notice. The date. 3 months after he knew the company was failing. He took your money anyway. Catherine started shaking her head. No, he wouldn't. He did. And now you're here, not because you care about me, but because you need me to fix it. We don't need, yes, you do. Because I'm the only one who can convince the investors to drop the fraud charges. I smiled coldly. That's why you're really here, isn't it? They exchanged guilty looks. Please, Richard said quietly. He's not perfect, but he doesn't deserve prison. And what do I deserve? More guilt? More manipulation? More responsibility for fixing his messes? We'll do anything, Catherine whispered. Anything. I pulled an envelope from my back pocket. I did make arrangements, like I promised. Richard took it with trembling hands. Inside were lease papers and a key. What is this? Your new home. 6 months paid in advance. Sunrise Haven Retirement Community. The trailer park? Catherine's voice rose in horror. 2 towns over? It's within your new budget, which, thanks to Kevin, is basically nothing. You can't be serious. Very serious. It's either that, or you can stay with Kevin in his cardboard box when the banks take your house. Richard crumpled the papers. We won't accept this. Then enjoy homelessness. I turned back to my door. Oh, and Kevin's arrest warrant goes out tomorrow morning. Unless. Unless what? They both stepped forward. Unless you sign these. I produced another envelope. Inside was an agreement to testify about his financial misconduct. Do that, take the trailer, and I'll ask them to go easy on him. You want us to testify against our own son? I want you to face reality for once. They stared at the papers, then at each other. 30 years of enabling Kevin hung in the balance. We'll think about it, Richard finally said. You have until 9 a.m. I opened my door. Choose wisely. Margaret, Catherine called as I stepped inside. When did you become so cold? I paused, hand on the door frame. Around the same time you both became so blind. The door clicked shut behind me. Through the camera, I watched them shuffle away, lease papers trailing from Richard's limp hand. My phone buzzed. A text from Martin. Arrest warrants ready. Still want to go through with this? I thought about all the Christmases spent listening to Kevin's grand plans, all the family dinners celebrating his potential while my achievements gathered dust. I remembered the day I'd found out about his first major fraud, how I'd confronted him, and how he dismissed my concerns with a laugh. You're so serious, Margaret, he'd said, pouring himself another glass of wine. This is just how business works. You'd understand if you weren't stuck in your corporate cubicle mentality. Absolutely, I typed back to Martin. Time they learned what real consequences feel like. The next message was from Ellen. You okay? I looked around my quiet condo, my space, my success, my life built despite their constant undermining. Never better, I replied. Never better. The trailer park, The Sunrise Haven retirement community looked exactly like its website photos. Rows of modest mobile homes, neat little gardens, and a community center with a sagging bingo sign. I pulled into the parking lot at 8:55 a.m., watching Richard and Catherine's car arrive right behind me. Catherine was wearing oversized sunglasses, her lips pressed into a thin line of disapproval. Richard, once so imposing in his tweed jackets and bow ties, looked crumpled in yesterday's shirt. "This is humiliating," Catherine said as they got out. She was wearing her designer handbag, the one Kevin bought her last Christmas with stolen money. I now knew. It's this or nothing. I unlocked Unit 47. Everything's furnished, utilities included, food banks 10 minutes away. Richard stood in the doorway, staring at the small living room. The space was clean but basic, a far cry from their sprawling colonial home with its library and sunroom. "We can't live here," Richard said, his voice hollow. "You can't live in my condo either." I pointed to the kitchen. "Fridge has stopped, bathroom has supplies, internet's basic but functional. Where's Kevin?" Catherine looked around nervously. "He should be here right on." My phone buzzed. A text from Martin. "Police just picked him up. Want the details?" "Kevin's busy," I said, setting the house keys on the counter. "Getting arrested, specifically." "What?" Catherine collapsed onto the worn couch. "But you said—" "I said I'd ask them to go easy on him if you signed the papers." "Did you?" Richard's hands shook as he reached for the documents I'd brought. "If we do this, you'll help him?" "I'll tell them you cooperated." "Might knock a year or two off his sentence." "Sentence?" Catherine started crying, real tears this time, not the theatrical ones I'd grown up witnessing. "Please, Margaret, he's your husband. And I'm your daughter-in-law." But that never mattered, did it? Silence filled the small trailer. Through the thin walls, we could hear a neighbor's television, someone's wind chimes, a dog barking. "This is your life now," I continued. "No more colonial house, no more faculty dinners, no more writing blank checks for Kevin's dreams." "How can you be so cruel?" Catherine whispered. "Cruel? You want to talk about cruel?" My voice remained steady, though I felt a tremor in my hands. "Let's talk about every time you dismissed my achievements, every time you drained your savings for Kevin's schemes while criticizing me for being too focused on work, every time you—" "We get it," Richard shouted, then immediately looked embarrassed by the trailer's echo. We weren't perfect in laws." "Perfect? You weren't even decent." I pulled out my phone, showed them the news alert. "Local tech entrepreneur arrested for fraud." Catherine started sobbing harder. "Sign the papers," I said. "Tell the truth about what he did with your money, or don't, and watch him face the maximum sentence while you lose your house anyway." Richard picked up the pen with trembling fingers. "Catherine," he said to his wife, "we have to." She turned away as he signed, then added her own shaky signature. I collected the papers, then dropped a thick manila envelope on the coffee table. "What's that?" Richard asked. "Everything you need to know about your new life. Bus schedules, social services information, senior center activities." I headed for the door. "Oh, and instructions for changing your phone numbers." "New numbers?" "You'll need them. Kevin's going to be pretty angry when he finds out you testified against him." Catherine's sobs turned to wails. Richard just stood there, looking lost in the tiny kitchen, his large frame seeming out of place. As I turned to leave, I noticed Catherine fumbling with an ornate jewelry box, one of the few personal items they'd managed to bring. The lid fell open, and a small piece of paper fluttered to the floor. I recognized my own childish handwriting instantly. "To Mom and Dad Coleman, thank you for welcoming me to your family. Love, Margaret." I'd written it our first Christmas together, when I still believed I'd found the loving family I'd always wanted. Before I understood the true dynamic. Catherine saw me looking at it, her fingers closing protectively around the note. "You were so eager to please back then," she said softly. "Always trying so hard." For a moment, the harshness in my chest wavered. I remembered how desperately I'd wanted their approval, how I thought marriage to their son would give me the family stability I'd craved after my own parents' early deaths. I admitted. But you never saw me. Not really. We saw you, Richard interjected, a flash of his old professorial authority returning. We saw how capable you were, how you didn't need our help like Kevin. Everyone needs support, I interrupted. Everyone needs to be valued, even the capable ones. I watched as the realization slowly dawned on their faces, the first genuine understanding I'd seen in 25 years. But instead of apologizing, Catherine looked at the photo of Kevin on her phone. What will happen to him now? She asked. And just like that, the moment passed. Even now, Kevin was still their priority. Welcome home, I said, opening the door. Try the bingo. I hear Wednesdays are exciting. Wait. Catherine stumbled to her feet. That's it. You're just leaving us here like. I turned back one last time. I gave you more than you ever gave me. Outside, the morning sun was bright. My phone buzzed with another update. Breaking. Parents to testify against son in tech fraud case. I got in my car, watched in the rearview mirror as Richard tried to comfort Catherine through the trailer's window. They looked small, old, broken. A part of me, the part that had desperately wanted their love for so long, felt a pang of guilt. But the stronger part, the part that had finally found her voice, felt only relief. How'd it go? Martin called as I pulled away. It's done. They signed the papers. They'll testify. And how do you feel? I looked back at the trailer park one last time. Decades of pain, of being the responsible one, of watching them enable Kevin's destruction, all of it ending in this moment. Free, I said. I feel free. New beginnings. 3 months later, I stood in my new office, unpacking the last of my personal items. The promotion to chief financial officer had come with a corner office overlooking Boston Harbor, a view I dreamed of for years, but never quite believed I'd achieve. CNN Business is running the story again, Ellen said, leaning against my doorframe. On her tablet was a headline, Renowned Professor's Son Sentenced to 4 years for Investment Fraud. I set down the industry award I'd been unwrapping. Old news. The sentencing was 2 weeks ago. The angle is different this time. Ellen walked in, showing me the screen. They're focusing on the whistleblower wife who ended a dynasty of deception. That's you, by the way. I laughed, shaking my head. Hardly a dynasty. How are Richard and Catherine adjusting? I placed my award on the shelf, prominently visible to anyone who entered the office. Richard got a job as a night security guard at the local community college. Catherine's selling her designer clothes online. I shrugged. They're surviving. Do you ever regret it? Any of it? I paused, considering. You know what I regret? Not doing it sooner. My computer pinged. An email notification from Catherine. I hadn't blocked their new email addresses, more out of curiosity than sentimentality. Read it, Ellen advised, seeing my hesitation. I clicked open the message. It was short, just a few sentences. I found your college graduation photo while unpacking. The one where you're standing alone on campus. I never realized what that meant until now. I'm sorry it took losing everything to see you. Attached was a scanned photograph of me at 32, in my graduation cap and gown, smiling bravely for a selfie I'd taken because there was no one else to take my picture. That's unexpected, Ellen whispered, reading over my shoulder. I stared at the image, remembering that day. How I'd called Catherine and Richard to remind them of the ceremony time. How Richard had said, Kevin's meeting that potential investor that day, and we promised to be there for moral support. You understand, don't you? You're already so accomplished on your own. Too little, too late, I murmured, though something in me shifted slightly. Not forgiveness, not yet. But perhaps the beginning of closure. My phone rang. Martin. Hey, I answered, putting him on speaker. Did you see the news? He sounded amused. About Kevin? Ellen just showed me. Not that. About the business ethics course at Northeastern. They're using Kevin's case as their primary example of fraud and family enabling. Richard's former colleagues are having quite the field day with it. I winced despite myself. That's got to be hard for them. Having second thoughts? There was no judgment in Martin's voice, only gentle inquiry. Not about what I did, I clarified. Maybe a little about how thoroughly I did it. Ellen squeezed my shoulder supportively. Well, Martin continued, if it helps, the retirement community called. Richard's organizing a resident advisory committee to improve services. Apparently, he's found a new purpose lecturing the management about infrastructure improvements. I couldn't help but smile. Some things never changed. Once a professor, always a professor. Still on for dinner Friday? Martin asked. I found this little Italian place near the harbor. I looked out my window at the water, sunlight dancing across its surface. At 58, I was starting a new chapter professionally and personally. The thought sent a quiet thrill through me. Wouldn't miss it, I replied. As I hung up, Ellen was grinning. So, you and Martin, we're colleagues. Friends. I felt a blush creeping up my neck. Who occasionally have dinner. Uh-huh. Ellen's knowing smile widened. The man looks at you like you hung the moon, Margaret. At our age? Especially at our age. She headed for the door. We finally know what we want. After she left, I stood at my window, watching the boats in the harbor. My own parents had died before I turned 30, my father from his second stroke, my mother from working herself to exhaustion caring for him. They never saw me graduate, never met Kevin, never witnessed what their daughter would become. But they taught me resilience. My mother's voice echoed in my memory. Never let anyone make you feel small, Margaret. You deserve to take up space in this world. For 25 years, I'd allowed myself to be diminished by Kevin, by his parents, by my own fear of being alone again. Now, standing in my corner office with a new title and a new sense of self, I finally understood what real independence felt like. My phone chimed with a text from Martin. Looking forward to Friday. No shop talk. Just us. Just us. Such a simple phrase, but it carried the weight of possibility. I glanced once more in the direction of the trailer park where Richard and Catherine were rebuilding their lives, then turned resolutely toward the harbor. Their chapter in my story was ending. Mine was just beginning.